I don't think you need much persuasion to take a vote on a subject like UKIP. We're all decidedly opposed to UKIP. It is Aunt Sally, it's a quote alternative, unquote, put up and packaged to appeal to disadvantaged workers, people who felt the effects of the crisis and feeling disgusted and dismayed and panicking, say, well, you know, the problem is immigration, the problem is Europe. We're the party that's really going to get us out of Europe. We're the party that's really going to kick out all the immigrants, so vote for us.
I saw an opinion poll the other day which scared me to death. They had 25%. And that really is a frightening thought. Because I'm from an Irish background, great-grandparents, and in those days, it was the Irish. And then when I was a kid growing up, it was the black people and the Indian people. Because the right wing, I find, always has to have a bogeyman. And the current bogeyman is the Eastern European population of this.
When I've been in Wigan and we've spoke to people on the streets, and we've had the EDL, the BNP, who try and drive us out, we've always had, it's immigrants who take the jobs. Immigrants take these jobs that come to our country. I live in Wigan and we have a small percentage of immigrants, but we still hear it. Same old, immigrants take these jobs. I have two questions. What jobs and what immigrants?
It's obviously a snare and a delusion. The object is to keep people running around in circles in the wrong direction rather than aiming at the real enemy, which is the true enemy is certainly not immigrants. The true enemy of the British working class is the British ruling class, and therefore we have to expose this con trick and bring people to socialism and not to immigrant bashing as a solution to their problem. So
the problem is not immigrant, because I'm an immigrant, given a few years ago to study here and decided to stay. And a lot of my wife is an immigrant, and she teaches in Birmingham University. She contributes a lot to the British society, as some mainstream media say, well, these people take money, take our jobs, they contribute nothing to the society. We do, actually. But the prejudice against us, immigrant, doesn't matter when I came into this country, I'm an immigrant too. So we should be looking back and saying, well, how many millions you spend in killing people, you know, where the budget instead of being used for public service. The bribes coming in this country, the corrupt system, corrupt government we have. How many millions the MPs spend in doing nothing? £3,000 one of them spent one night in a hotel. So this is the real question we need to ask. It's not the immigrant, it's where is our money, where is our tax money? Thank you.
They've been pushed so hard by our media.
Yeah.
It's impossible to escape them. In any media, you see them everywhere. They're talked about everywhere. There's not, and you know the comedians take the mickey out of them. You know, pretend to be opposed to them, but push them all the same. The media who say they disagree with them are pushing them. The politicians who say they disagree with them are pushing them. They're being pushed at us all the time. And as Ella said, it's a way of packaging them as an alternative. And all it does really is show you people want an alternative. They just don't know where to look, and the ruling class is busy telling them where to look. You know, it's this big flipping charade, but it doesn't really show you that, oh, there's a huge upsurge of fascism amongst workers. It shows you that the ruling class has harnessed the anger and is pointing it in the wrong direction.
You know, we want to exploit them for cheap labour, but when that sort of, because we seem as though the establishment seems as though it's got out of hand now, then they have to turn them into this sort of demonic figure.
Is UKIP a racist party? Certainly it uses racist terminology and racist rhetoric, but I don't think it's any more racist than the other three parties, including and the emphasis on this, the Labour Party.
And at work, where I work, fittingly enough is in a brewery, because I hear lots of absolutely opinions that sound to me like, you know, you got the white band man on Saturday night just coming out of the pub going for his chips. And I'm in debates virtually every day, and the potential UKIP supporters where I work is frightening, because they read things like The Sun, and they sort of, you know, they're coming over here, they're walking straight into this luxury council house and 10-bedroom mansion and all this sort of thing. And, you know, it's just absolutely insane. And, you know,
to actually get the workers to think outside of the box. It's not the European Union that causes the problems, and it's not the disintegration of the European Union that by itself will bring socialism. Economic crisis won't go away till capitalism is overthrown. And that's really the thrust of this particular resolution. Workers must think beyond the European Union, beyond UKIP. These individual parties have no solutions.
Immigration, we should put question mark, where come from the immigration? Why? Why we have the refugee and asylum seeker in here? Because inequality in the world. We have the poor countries in the Asia, we have in the Africa and Latin America. Why they are poor? If you go for the few centuries ago and now still on, because they attacked that country and went there, every resource they had, they got their resource and made them poor. How many people dying until come to here? If you, several years ago, I'm not too sure how many, by 50 people died in the lorry, Chinese people, to arrive in here. How many people before arrived to the Italy in the boat dying? How many people survive, arrive in here, still find a better life? Why? Why is because inequality in the world, because they are attacking there. You're going to the attacking Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, all over the place. Of course they should come this country or the other country. You should expect that.
you know, I'll always be against these guys, every bone in my body, every drop of blood, because I find the right wing incredibly scary and it seems to be having a bit of a revival at the moment through these sort of Tory outcasts. And the frightening thing, as Tim mentioned, is that the other three main parties seem to be sort of peddling this line because it's seen as though it's an electoral winner.
So really what that tells us is, you know, we need to do a much better job of getting out there with our stuff and showing people that there is an alternative that is actually in their class interest, because the alternative they've been presented with is going against their class interests.
If you notice, every time the mainstream media and mainstream parties blame the immigrant, we didn't have enough places in schools, we didn't have good health service, we didn't have jobs, because obviously these aliens come from somewhere and take our jobs, take our spaces in the schools. Doctors have to struggle to cater to a lot of patients. I never heard ever include some of the so-called left-wing parties pointing at the millions and the billions have been spent on killing children in Iraq and Afghanistan. I never heard them saying, people running to this country, you know, because we go and bomb the hell of their families and kill their mother and fathers. You know, it's a daily drone assassination of the civilians in these countries. And that's what the issue we need to be looking at. It's not how many people come to this country, multicultural UK, as I think it's been useful to us, but the problem is how many millions we spend a day, a month, in killing other people in other countries.
UKIP is another party of capitalism, just like all the other three contenders. You know, it would continue austerity, it would continue all the attacks upon the working class, the attacks on housing, social welfare provision. It would continue the same line as all the other three parties. It is another party of capitalism. It would be just as content to continue exploiting cheap foreign labour as all the other capitalist parties have done.
I just want to say, I think the most important thing in the resolution, in the motion, is the idea that we need to redouble our efforts to spread our message to the working class. Not just the working class, maybe some middle class that aren't so bad, don't know.
What do you look at Ranjit when you say that?
The main thing is that what UKIP provides is an opportunity for Labour Party, Conservative Party and the other parties that cling onto their coattails, is an opportunity like what gets discussed in the media and what's presented to us by the BBC, the tabloids, is the kind of message that this is what politics is now. It drags the debate further and further to the right. It drags it to the extremes that we see when they talk about, you know, is it right to bomb hospitals when talking about the Israeli occupation of Palestine? And it drags the discussion.
One of the great strengths of Ella's resolution is it takes this particular phenomenon of UKIP and situates it within the wider context of the economic crisis and the political system in this country. If we look at, if we think back to the European elections a few months ago, where UKIP topped the polls, and the next day after the European elections, Ed Miliband goes off to Billericay in Essex and makes a speech about, oh, the Labour Party has been much too soft on immigration in the past. I mean, I hadn't noticed, but, you know, this is apparently what he was saying. And, you know, now Labour has got to be much firmer on immigration. Recently we saw the UKIP's first victory in a by-election, and this is immediately followed by Ed Balls, the Shadow Chancellor, who some people in the Trotskyist and revisionist parties will tell you is a bit of a left-winger. And, you know, you have Ed Balls saying that a Labour government will look at denying benefits to recent immigrants and so on. So what UKIP really does is function as a stalking horse for putting forward ideas that the majority of workers would find unacceptable on first hearing, but through they being given the oxygen of publicity to legitimise a whole set of ideas and make them mainstream, and then you bring the other bourgeois parties, not least the Labour Party, as Tim rightly said, behind it, saying, well, you know, we wouldn't really have said these things, but you know, we've got to appeal to the public, and so much of the left is basically jumping up and down saying you've got to stop UKIP, you've got to stop, you know, the EDL and so on. And their way of stopping them is to boost the parties, the very parties who have created the conditions in which these people flourish. And I think this is what's very important about Ella's resolution and the stand of our party. That of course we are as resolutely opposed to UKIP as anybody else. In fact, more so. But more importantly, we're opposed to the soil in which they breed and the role that they represent actually in legitimising an even more reactionary agenda on the part of the very parties which are in a position to carry it out, which for all the media hype is not UKIP.
I believe that the greatest danger actually comes from the mainstream political parties who actually hold the balance of power. You know, the far right and UKIP can wax lyrical about the effects of immigration and, you know, and so on and so forth. The chances are they are never going to they are never likely to be holding the balance of power.
If we really concentrate on who who the real enemy is, and just educate the workers and let them see that if we don't unite, if we, regardless of race or culture or faith, if we don't unite against who the real enemy is, we're never going to stand a chance.
So what you do always, they point the finger in the other direction to keep these people looking at this direction instead of looking in the right direction.